history teacher ought to, and he's on his phone, so he can't give me the answer. You know who Horace Greeley is? Okay. Horace Greeley actually started something called the New York Tribune in the 19th century. He was very involved politically, and he knows what this is about, because if you're in politics, usually fame fades quickly. Anybody who spent time in professional athletics knows that fame fades quickly. So he made this statement years ago. He was actually somebody who was really involved in the anti-slavery movement. He was really involved in fair treatment of Native Americans. He opposed some things that were going on in America at the time. But this is what he said: fame is a vapor, popularity an accident, riches take wing. Those who cheer today will curse tomorrow. Only one thing endures: character. You guys have been around sports and had success long enough, you know that somebody might praise you one day and curse you the next. But what matters is character. So the point of why we do character development, you guys, is because the things that we learn in character development will last a whole lot longer than your football career. For most of you, it won't last beyond high school. Some of you will have the opportunity to play college. And maybe there's one person in the room that would make it into the NFL. Maybe. So what we think about is what really matters in life. And so that's why we have core values. That's why we do character development. And we do this every week. And we're doing it early in the week so that we as coaches and as players can watch each other, help each other grow in these characteristics of character. So, first of all, we're going to talk about is love. It's our first core value. It can be an awkward thing to talk about, but it's our first core value for a reason, because it really means something. I'm going to have Noah come up. Now you guys tell Noah, he'll write it down. Tell me something that you love.
My mom.
Your mom, all right? Mom gets a shout out right away. Mom came before anything else. That's pretty impressive. What else? Go ahead.
Football.
Football?
Friends.
Friends?
Teammates.
Okay, hang on for a second so that Noah can write those down. Teammates was another one.
Wives and kids.
Wives and kids. You don't have more than one, do you, Coach Bernard? You said wives, plural.
Yeah.
Okay.
One wife, two kids. My grandpa.
What?
My grandpa.
What?
His grandpa.
Uncles, aunts.
I think we got it covered with family. I think beyond family.
School.
Well, that could be a debatable response, but there we go. Coach Storley.
How about yourself?
All sports. Coaches.
Brownie points. There we go. Yep. Anything else? Brownies? The first time someone mentioned food, I thought we were going to be writing down pizza, tacos, Gatorade. No, we won't start that. Nobody said video games. I was waiting for that one to come up. All right. Okay, guys, let's think about it for a second. We're gonna keep that list right there, and then Noah and I are gonna talk about love, and we'll define how many of these things maybe fit the definition of love that we're talking about. Here's a question for you guys to think about. Do you think our culture presents false definitions of love? Can you give an example? What would be an example of that?
Fake friends.
What's that?
Fake friends.
Fake friends? Okay. Somebody else was gonna say something, was you, Kurt?
Ads and, different stuff on Lust.
Okay? Give an example of what you mean by that.
Like, they could try to sell you, well, just about anything, just putting a hot model on the screen and
Okay?
giving them something.
Okay? That makes love maybe more of a physical thing? Okay? Anything else?
Money.
Okay. Yep, say it.
Money.
Money, okay? So the love of money, you could make it seem like having more is gonna make you happy, and maybe that's a false definition of love, okay? Anything else?
Fame.
Fame, okay? They're not the same, are they? I wanna talk about, I talked about John Wooden last year, some of you guys remember, and I was trying to think of somebody else who would typify love. I don't know if you guys recognize the guy to his right. Anybody recognize the guy to John Wooden's right?
Kareem.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. At the time, his name was Lou Alcindor. Later, he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Pretty good basketball player. Still, I believe, the leading scorer in the NBA. John Wooden was his coach in college. 10 out of 12 years that he coached at UCLA, 10 out of 12 years, they won the national championship. They won 7 in a row. And so he talked about a lot in a book that I read years ago called They Call Me Coach. I read this when I was in college, so now you know it's a really old book if I read it in college. And he talked about how he interacted with his players, and one of the things he talked about was love. And he called love the most powerful 4-letter word. He talks about the fact that he loved his players. One of the examples he uses, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar used to get migraine headaches. And a lot of the players thought that he was given favoritism because he had his own bedroom. And he said, well, there's one problem. One is he's 7'2", and not too many places can you fit in a bed with another guy. Or maybe they just get a king-size bed and there'd only be one in a room. So Kareem kind of had to have a bed to himself. Secondly, he said he'd get migraine headaches and he'd leave him in a room alone because he knew he needed to have a dark room, close his eyes in. So that's how he treated his players. That's the kind of guy that he was. Actually, something from his book that I thought was really, really good. It's in the 8th chapter. And this is something I think for us as coaches to think about, how John Wooden talked about his players. First of all, at the bottom of the page, at the top of the page, he had this quote: "You cannot live a perfect day without doing something for someone who will never be able to repay you." And that starts to move into our definition of love. And he also said this: "I often tell my players that next to my own flesh and blood, they are the closest to me. They are my children. I get wrapped up in them, their lives and their problems." So that's a challenge for us as coaches, and I think I speak for the other coaches when I say you're more to us than just football players. That's the idea of character development. So moving on, Noah is going to talk a little bit about love. I'm sorry, I got one more slide. So what is love? So now I'll turn it over to Noah, and he's going to talk a little bit more about helping us have a good definition of love.
Alright. So this last week I've been reading the Chopwood Carry Water book, and the whole time I was kind of thinking of what love is and what love isn't while I read it. So first of all, one of the biggest points is love is not a feeling, it's a decision. So it's not just the kind of love with girls or whatever, food, whatever you love. What I read in here that I really think goes good with this is, many days you aren't going to feel like working out and honing your craft. Many days you aren't going to feel like treating people really well. Many days you aren't going to feel like being unconditionally grateful. And many days you aren't going to feel like giving it your best. Most you can expect from feelings is happiness, but like every other feeling, happiness doesn't last. So when you make the choice to live by a certain set of principles, it is not only protect you from your feelings, it will allow you to step into your greatest potential. So to me, that means the greatest potential we have as a team is to be a great team. And the only way to do that is to love each other. Love isn't something you get, but something you give. To me, you have to set your mind into the mindset that you're always giving to each other. You can't love something just to expect to get something out of it. And then, love is not impulsive, it's sacrificial. So when I thought about this, I was thinking, everyone says when we have a game, we're going to battle. So to me, I thought of it more as we're going to war. When you have soldiers out on the battlefield, sometimes they'll lay down their life for each other. To me, that's the greatest example as sacrifice. So for us, we got to sacrifice for each other on the field and off the field. It's not based on what I do, but based on who I am. So it's not always about what you do as a person, but it has to be a part of you.
Okay, so another quote from John Wooden that helps play in a little bit to what Noah had to say is, we can give without loving, but we can't love without giving. In fact, love is nothing unless we give it to someone. So when we start thinking about, loving food, and don't get me wrong, I like football a lot. I might even use the term, I love football. And you can give to football, but there's something more about the relationship with people, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about love. Now, some of you, I think this is one of the best definitions of love there is. This is from the Bible, so I'm a pastor, some of you know that, so I use the Bible quite a bit. But there's some things in here that, whatever you believe, I think really make a lot of sense in terms of what love really is. Some of you have maybe been to weddings, and if you pay attention at the wedding, a lot of times this passage is read about love. Now, what happens before all these things are said by somebody named Paul, the Apostle Paul, who wrote this, what he says before this, now he's talking about gifts, right? Because we're all in this room because we have gifts and abilities. Specifically, when we talk about that as a team, we're talking about gifts and abilities in terms of being an athlete, a football player, different things that are involved in the gifts and talents that we've been given. So, he's talking about those things, and then after he says it, he talks about abilities, he said, and I'll show you a more excellent way. Because that's what we do in athletics, right? We want to become more excellent in what we do. We want to become more excellent in life. And so after listing all these different abilities, he said, well, I'm going to show you a more excellent way. And the more excellent way that he was talking to this group of people about in a city called Corinth, which is in what's now Greece, he was telling them, this is what love really is. It's patient, it's kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. Is it hard to not be proud in athletics? Can be. If you have a lot of ability, right? There's a lot of this in the NFL, right? There's a lot of sack dances and other things, and they're all about, hey, check it out, I got the ability, right? I have a lot of respect for athletes that can make a big play and they walk away. But when their teammate makes a good play, they get excited about it. And so there's no problem with having ability and getting excited about it. But sometimes people will confuse, right, cockiness and confidence. Confidence is good, but where does it cross over? And love is not proud. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. What would happen in football if one of us was self-seeking? There's 11 guys in the field. What's that?
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work, Sam?
You gotta work together.
You got to work together, right? What about the offensive line? If one of you does your job and the 4 other guys don't, or 5 if you include the tight end or the H, what happens? It's not going to work. Basketball, maybe one guy can take over and win the game, but even that's hard to do. Football's a team sport. It's hard to be self-seeking. You have to work together. Now, this is a tough one when we're playing the game of football. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Now, that's an important one, guys, because when someone does something to us that isn't very kind, the question is how easy is it is for us to forgive. Why is forgiving someone when they do something wrong towards me easier to do? Why can I have an easier time forgiving someone who's hurt me in some way? Because maybe I've done it too. Maybe I've made mistakes too. But someone who keeps a record of wrongs, they just keep thinking about what you did wrong. Do you guys ever get married sometime and you do this, you keep a record of wrongs against your spouse? Good luck. That's not going to go well for you. But that's sometimes what we do. We make a list, but we need to learn to forgive because we all make mistakes. That's hard to do. But that's what he means by that. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Always protects. You know, what do we talk about protection? When we use the word protection in football, what do we talk about? Who are we trying to protect? The ball carrier. We're trying to protect Drew so he doesn't get blindsided. Some of you have seen the movie Blindside, right? That's the job of the left tackle, is to protect the quarterback. That's the job of the offensive lineman, protect the quarterback, protect our running backs. But we have to protect each other as teammates. That's important as well. Always trust. There you go. There's our second core value. Always hopes, always perseveres. We're going to talk about perseverance later. So what we want you guys to think about is just the idea that love goes so much more beyond just me. Now, it relates to how I feel about myself. I need to have confidence in myself. But understanding that it means serving others, helping others, right? If we look out for ourselves, we'll be fine if it's just us that can get the job done. But if we look out for other people, guess what? They look out for us. That's what it means to be a team. You see teams that talk about family, and we have to think about what it really means to be a family. To really love each other, care for each other, even though we know we're going to make mistakes. Right? How do you guys like it when your teammates yell at you when you make a mistake? How does that go over? Yeah, it doesn't go over well, does it? How about if they encourage you? Hey, you'll get them next time. How does that work? Quite a bit better. Besides that, that's our job as coaches, to get on someone if he makes a mistake. You guys have to build each other up. All of you have probably played on teams, I know I have, where I had those kind of teammates. They're not fun to play with. We need to encourage one another when we make mistakes. That's what love really means. No, you got some?
Yeah, so for the biggest thing for me, for you guys to take away today, is that all of us need to make the decision to start loving each other today, and then for the rest of our lives. It can't just be something that we feel like doing every day or once in a while. It's got to be every day, in and out. And then a big part of showing that is just sacrificing yourself, doing what others wouldn't in different times when everyone's watching or when they're not watching.
Okay, you guys are broken up into tables, so this works really slick. We're going to give you guys a few minutes, okay? I use the term brotherly love. Some of you know that Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, right? Anybody know that? That's what Philadelphia means. It's a Greek word for love, phileo, and then it's the Greek word for brother. And so that's what it means. Are we going to be a band of brothers, and how are we going to do that together? So take a few minutes in your group, talk about those 3 questions.
All right.
Talk about the first and best example of love. What's demonstrated in your life and what areas do you
Let's start down there with you. What's your name, buddy?
What's the best example of love that you're
guys slide?
Maybe that's like better than you. Like, if I make mistakes, she still makes
No, I'd say like reassurance, like kind of make sure. You guys trying to be to come over.
Well, I think this is we always see it's quick for us to see what's doing wrong. It's not that we, we can see how you guys sometimes you know what you're doing wrong.
I know what I do.
Skip. You're not
Parts of it.
would be on stage.
All right.
Somebody was gonna hurt them. Somebody would beat them. They might be parallel. Like you're doing. You always love it. That's really good. You gotta stand up for it.
I'm not talking.
Go to battle. They know you're not very tired. Post, you got things back in mind. You don't want It's, yeah, there's parts of practice. Especially if they're in the same position. It's hard.
All right, guys, you got about 1 minute to wrap up what you're talking about, please.
Me and Ryan show you can be.
Good job, guys.
All right, guys, focus in on Coach Pfluger. Let's wrap this up.
Hey guys, to wrap this up, you guys, let's just focus on the last question. What did you guys come up with some ideas for that? And maybe Noah can jot those down. A couple of ideas of how we can demonstrate love as a football team.
Taking people under your wing.
Okay? Taking people under your wing. Talk about what that means.
Like, say you take a freshman under your wing, show them how to play a position, make them better, how they should be acting on the football team,
Okay?
on the field and off the field.
Okay? How fast can you write, Noah? All right, yeah.
Showing leadership instead of bossiness.
Okay? What's the difference between leadership and bossiness? How do we define?
A leader will show you how to do something and take you through the steps of doing it. A boss will tell you how to do it and throw it onto you blindly, and
Okay.
expect you to do it perfect every time. A leader
Okay.
understands.
All right.
I don't know, like, I guess it's more, driven towards the seniors, but like, when we all graduate, like, I think, like, I love each and every one of you guys in this room, but like, I feel like we should always try to be there for each other, you know, like, we're family now, like, that ain't ever gonna change.
I'd say unconditional support, no matter how mad you are at someone, or if they just keep doing the same mistake, just keep trying to help them through stuff however you can, in whatever way you think.
Isaiah, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say, like, when I was in Boy Scouts, my first leader that was big role model for me, he told me that if I was gonna be a leader, you have to leave behind, so you have to help them behind you. So the leader does like the grunt work with you, and I think that will really help us.
Okay. You're getting tired, Noah. You can quit or learn, or summarize really fast. Sorry, go ahead.
Picking your teammates up instead of like getting upset with them when they make mistakes.
Okay?
Treat everybody on the team like family, like you and another person like get into like a fight or like you guys don't like each other, you guys are still family and still on a team, so still treat each other.
Gotta try to work it out, right? Gotta try to work it out, and try to work it out with each other, or if you can't work it out with each other, come to one of the captains. If you can't work it out with the captains, come to the coaches, rather than telling other people about it. That's where it gets harder, right? When you complain to someone else and you have an issue. Go ahead.
Do what's best for the team instead of just for you on and off the field.
Okay? Sometimes, yeah, I gotta do what's best for someone else, which might mean a hard job for me. Like being a stud, when you have to like take out bodies so that someone else can make the tackle. That's what we have to do at our position sometimes, but that's how it works.
I was gonna say competing against each other in practice at the highest level and still being able to be buddies, be friends, be brothers after you've gotten after each other for half an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours of practice.
Good. Okay, let's go on.
Like reassuring people when they do things good, like not only calling people out when they do bad things, but like also telling them when stuff goes good too.
Affirmation, guys, we all want it. We all want it, right? And you're all the same. The average person needs how many affirmations for every negative? Ever heard this before? 10. They say 10 affirmations for every negative. That's how most of us operate, because we focus more on the negative. That's what we listen to, right? So we need that to offset those negative comments. So think about that. When you call somebody out, make sure that you also tell them they do a good job. Did you ever get up, Stuart? Oh, I saw something. Yeah, go ahead.
Try to talk people out of stuff, they're doing bad decisions, no matter how hard it is.
Okay? Yeah, when you really love someone, you'll tell them what they need to hear, right? Even if that's hard to do. Okay? All right, guys, that's a good start. I think probably should wrap it up. We're ready to wrap it up. That's a good start, guys. Let's be thinking about these things throughout the week. All right? Let's help each other. Let's challenge each other at times, but in a good way. And so let's work on that this week.